Welcome to another episode of Sarva Gunn Sampann. My guest today is someone who lives by these values, which are eternal human values: love thy neighbor, compassion, empathy, building each other up through mutual respect, and gratitude. She also is someone who really believes in being attached through detachment. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Deepika Grandhi. Deepika, welcome to Sarva Gunn Sampann.
Thank you so much, Anu. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor to be a part of your endeavor. I wanted to start by saying a huge shout out to you for having thought about all those women who are heroes in their own lives. We don't need to be celebrities, to celebrate each other's lives and build each other up. So kudos to you. And I'm so excited to be on your show.
Great privilege to have you. So let's get started. This is our segment called Bachpan Ke Din. Deepika, take it away.
Thank you. So if I had to think of Bachpan Ke Din, what comes to mind is teacher ki daant, summer mein mom ka rasna, and our trips to Shirdi. So basketball practice after school to start with. And I want to say what influenced me the most is, I grew up in a joint family, which I don't think I've shared with many friends of mine. And it was phenomenal. I think joint families bring a certain set of core values, which I feel the nuclear families miss today. But especially wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the role of my Mausaji in shaping, who we are. He taught us the art of self-love and selfless love, and being in a joint family. I think early days maybe learn what it is to share and care for each other, and to look beyond just mom, dad, and sisters. The whole concept of caring for cousins and uncles and aunts. So I think that was one of the greatest influence growing up in a joint family. Of course, my teachers. I don't think we can thank them enough. Our good old teachers who taught us not just grammar and math. I think some of the skills which we carry till date. And of course, my family and my two sisters. So I think those were some of the biggest influences in my life, from my earlyhood, childhood.
I'm so glad you touched upon the importance of growing up in a joint family, not things that are part and parcel of growing up in a joint family. Only kids that have experienced that can talk about it. And sometimes it's unfortunate because a lot of people can't relate to it. But
yes. I do want to mention, there's just one more thing that I wanted to mention about my bachpan with joint family is our love for chai and puri. So, we were about 15 of us cousins and having to go to school by, getting out at 8 a.m. So my aunts and mom, most of them were working. So we actually used to have a big pot of tea, and everybody used to have puris, one day of the week. And that was our breakfast, one day of the week. And till date, even my daughter, Shaila, she gets to have that once a week. So that's one tradition that I was able to carry forward in this generation. So chai puri, make sure you try that next time.
that sounds very, very delicious and a lot of fun. So definitely we'll take you up on that advice. So Deepika, that was, a nicely painted picture of your childhood. How fun. That's all I can think of, The next segment is, you've grown up, you've got married perhaps, or for further education, you've relocated, right? Gone to a different country or a different city. And that's our segment that talks about Ye Kahan Aa Gaye Hum. Talk to me about that process, that journey, the struggles and challenges, adapting to a new location, new people, new culture, new climate. How was that?
Oh, yeah, that's a loaded question, I know. So you mentioned, pursue marriage, education. For me, both of them happened together. So the reason I actually went to the US was to pursue my master's, as well as my then fiance, now husband, Krishna, who traveled from Australia to Cleveland because his aunt was in Cleveland. And of course, then I followed him along to Cleveland for my master's in computer science. And to talk about Cleveland in a couple minutes is is going to be tough. But I would say Cleveland made me who I am today. Some of the I think some of the roughest days and some of the most rewarding days came from my stay in Cleveland. I think every immigrant faces these, right? I mean, the early days, everything was new. I think we were raised in a very different environment where, there was no internet. We were still looking at Google Maps to commute from one place to another, if I could remind you of those days. And, I wanted to say alphabet Z became Z, petrol became gas, car ki dicky became trunk, aloo fry became French fries, medical shop became pharmacy, plastic bags became carry bags, and the list goes on, right? We had to adapt to a completely new, different, lingo language. I think those are just some of the, minor aspects of adapting to a new country. But especially for me, coming from a joint family, to move to a place where there was none of that support system, the protection we have from our parents and siblings, I think those are, the impact of that is definitely underplayed. We make it sound so easy, we've gone there to pursue masters, but there is such a huge change. I think that I think kudos to all the immigrants who moved from India to different parts of the world and who make it sound and appear so easy. But I think whether it is the snow, getting used to how to dress up in snow. I mean, we grew up in a tropical climate, and the first snow sounded and seemed fun, but when the chilly weather hit in with the stormy winds and you're not underprepared for it, I think I could definitely use some mentorship. So I think I've had amazing set of mentors, whether it was Krishna's aunt in Cleveland, my roommates, my sister-in-law who became my roommate back then, you, Anu. I think that's when we reconnected, and I cannot thank you enough for the warm hug you gave the first time you met us, and I was so homesick. I think those little acts of kindness go a long, long way, and I think our Indian community especially, we become family to each other there, right? And I really miss that here. When I have come back, I see the friends there are more like family, and the support system we had there was incredible. And I can't thank so many of my friends, and the list goes on. I don't want to obviously mention names, but I think I had an amazing set of friends, and I would say mentors in Cleveland. Few to mention is, one was Dr. Bruce Lytle. He was the chairman of our department. And I can't thank him enough for embracing talent and, giving me opportunities to, be where I am today. Some of my colleagues, who have, taught me the 101 of working in the US, those are all, I think, skill set that cannot be trained in school. I taught how to code in Cleveland State University, but all of these soft skills came from relationship building, and I think it's all about relationship building. And again, thank you to all the people who've helped me along the way.
You have, it seems like a tip of the iceberg, the things that you touched upon, but so relatable. I am sure everybody that's come to the US and lived here even for some time completely relates to those things. And there's just so much that you learn. You really grow up in the true sense.
Yes.
Even with all the technological advancements in this country, struggled, learned the hard way, and but boy, did that teach us a lot. So coming to our next segment is Kaam Ki Baat. You've talked about your education, you've talked about the skills you gained. So start with perhaps what you do right now, currently, your role, where you are, who you work for, and then maybe go back to, how you came here.
Sure. So currently I'm the representative for Cleveland Clinic in India, and I have the responsibility of 1.3 billion people, trying to connect them to the world's second best hospital, which is Cleveland Clinic, is, I think, quite a task. It's a lot of responsibility, and what I do in my current role is multifold. So one is assisting patients, right? So we have a lot of patients in India. We have the best of care, obviously, in India, but there are always some complex conditions for which patients like to travel abroad. So we help facilitate, their journey to a foreign country to access, the world's best care. In addition, I think the favorite part of my job is really to spread awareness about Cleveland Clinic in India. A lot of folks don't know, what about this amazing hospital. So I get to meet a lot of physicians, a lot of administrators, medical students, and so on. So that's another aspect that I enjoy. In addition to helping, create a path for medical education. The more I travel to different parts of India today, I sense and I feel that there is such an energy from these medical students, right? They go through medical school, they are the smartest of the kids, and they really are excited to learn what's happening, across the world, especially with the United States, obviously being ahead of a lot of countries when it comes to research and advances. These folks are yearning to get educated, get trained. So I'm the bridge to connect them to some of the best programs in the US, whether it is to help them with observerships or preceptorships, or help them guide through the right programs within the Cleveland Clinic system. And then, of course, I also spearhead a company called IMAS Healthcare. We created this right before COVID with the idea of improving access of Cleveland Clinic in India to those who cannot afford to travel, because the care is expensive and the insurance segment in India is still a little premature. For folks who want to receive care in a foreign hospital and who don't have insurance have to self-pay. And that becomes a very expensive affair. So some of the brightest minds came together and said, how can we help those patients who still want to access our expertise but may not be able to travel? And maybe they'll get the best care here in India. Sometimes it's just making sure they're reassured about their medical condition. They're reassured about the care that they're receiving here. So we created this company with that mindset, to help improve access of some of the best minds to here. We brought care to India without patients having to travel, and it was perfectly timed because COVID hit, and this was not planned for COVID. So during COVID, we were able to help a lot of patients, very very complex cases. With we did case reviews and case studies, physician to physician consults. We exchanged ideas. Our pulmonology department in Cleveland Clinic was very ambitious, and they wanted to reach back to India. And similarly, some of the Indian physicians wanted to learn what's going on, in US, because we were in different phases of COVID, India and US, right? So I think it was very rewarding to be a part of that initiative, and we still continue to offer those consultations. So that's some of what I do. And prior to relocating to India, I was a consultant in Cleveland Clinic, where we had our own consulting wing within Cleveland Clinic, where we used to go around different hospitals and help fix some of their problems. Right? It could be anywhere, as a technology problem or an administrative challenge. So as part of that management consulting group, my education was in computer science. And my bachelor's was in commerce. So that's a little bit about my journey so far.
Thank you so much for sharing and really laying that path out for our viewers and audience to hear how you got into the position that you did, and the important work you're doing of really creating equitable access to healthcare, and really working with one of the greatest hospitals in the world, and sharing all of that knowledge. And talk to me a little bit about that journey, right? You were a consultant, and how did you come into this role? How did this opportunity come about? It's a great responsibility that you shoulder. How did you facilitate that?
I think, to be very honest, it happened by chance because we were in the process of deciding to relocate. I think weather was something that was bothering us. We were trying to grow a family. And, to be very honest, we were looking to move to California, like most of the Clevelanders do. They either go to Dallas or San Francisco, and lucky ones stay back in Cleveland, right? So
we have an aversion to the greener pastures, I guess.
So yeah, so we were about to do that, and in fact, I was getting interviewed for some of the positions in California, and it so happened that there was a tragedy. We lost one of our my brother-in-law in India, and we decided to come for a very a temporary break, but it actually became more long-term than we thought, and then it so happened that Cleveland Clinic was looking for a representative in India. I interviewed for that role and they found me to be a good fit. So it really happened by chance.
Oh,
I would have loved to, paint a different picture and say, I was the perfectly credentialed candidate, but I think destiny has, some place in everyone's life. So I think it was destiny that connected me to this job here, which I absolutely enjoy. Yeah.
And I always believe preparation plus opportunity is equal to success. So you were definitely doing some great job, great work at Cleveland Clinic, getting noticed. And when the opportunity showed up, you were the right fit. So destiny, definitely. Chance, maybe not so. So don't have that imposter syndrome. Take credit for your accomplishments and your skills. That's what I would like to say.
I remember that.
Please remember. All right. So next we talk about your special interests. I know your work probably takes up much of your time as you straddle 2 continents. I'm sure you come to the US a lot, and you're also raising a family. And all those commitments aside, what are your special interests, hobbies, things you do for your own self? How do you make time for those? How do you develop, those God-given talents that you have?
Oh, wow. I wish I could answer this question again differently, but I think one of the biggest challenge right now is to actually create time for, my outside work talents. I would say raising 2 girls and, wearing a couple of different hats at work. I think that's been, to be honest, one of the biggest challenge. But when it comes to my special interests, I love Urdu Shairi. And I do write. I don't write Urdu Shairi, but I do write poems. I read quite a bit, and I'm very interested in arts and handicrafts. I don't know if you remember, but when we were in India, when we were little, I think what was the name of that show? Best from the Waste. I can't remember the Tabassum's serial where she taught us all kinds of fun stuff. So I was the one actually creating all those handicrafts. So I think more and more I'm getting into handmade handicrafts because I do so much of science and tech at work that I really want to explore my creative side, which I haven't gotten a chance to do so far. And I want to be able to use parts of my brain that probably I've never used in the past 30, 40 odd years. I don't want to mention my age now. But yes, I think it's a journey, and I think I'm very early in the game with trying to create that time, to explore my talents. But I'd like to share one of my favorite shairi, which I, it's Roshni agar khuda ko ho manzoor, Roshni agar khuda ko ho manzoor, to आंधियों में भी चिराग जलते हैं.
Wow, wow, beautiful. That's
Thank you.
Such a wonderful shairi. Thank you for sharing that. Deepika, we want to move on to self-care. That's the next segment where we talk about how do you care for yourself? How do you make time for yourself? At an emotional level, mental, physical, spiritual, whatever that is. What do you do to make sure that you protect yourself from everything that's happening around you?
Yeah. So I think it took some age and wisdom to even understand that there is actually a necessity to address your spiritual health, your mental, emotional health. I think when we are young, we don't even care as much about our bodies. And I think, especially for women, as we hit that magic number 40, when you start thinking about your droopy eyelids and we think about Botox and collagen, I think that's when it really hits you, right? Okay, that we really got to start taking care of holistic health. And so for me, the way at least I deal with different aspects of health is to have physically sat down and journaled that I need to address these different aspects of health, right? So I think spiritual health is very, very important to me. And the way I practice spirituality is every morning, 10 minutes of my time I dedicate to listening to positive vibes, mantras, but also that's the time I actually practice gratefulness. I think it's immensely powerful to start your day, with saying thanks to the supreme power. If you're a believer in God, and thanking, for what you have, especially, having dealt with so many medical conditions and patients. I think we should never forget to thank God for, the good health. So I start my day with that. Of course, fitness is important. I think most of us are getting to a stage where we all realize, exercise is important. But I think moving throughout the day for me is far more important than maybe exercising 30 minutes in the morning, or 30 minutes or 1 hour in the evening. I think I've gotten to a stage where, we try to move every hour. People have said that lack of mobility or sedentary lifestyle is the next obesity, or next leading cause for diabetes, especially in India. I think the factors are changing here, right? I mean, everybody's still now moving towards a very healthy lifestyle, but I think it's nevertheless important to make it a very conscious effort to move every hour. Sleep, I think we forget the importance of sleep and importance of taking enough water. I think we are in a culture where alcohol has become secondary, and everybody is into all kinds of non-healthy habits. So moderation is the key. I would say it's difficult to just say, yes, stop, drinking, stop alcohol, but somewhere I think within reason and within moderation, I think that's important. So these are some of the, I would say, factors that I have included as a part of my lifestyle. Nothing new, but just again a gentle reminder that all of these components are important. And of course, I think there is one point that I do want to make is the importance of fulfilling relationships, which is absolutely, I think, critical to to a healthy body and mind. And I think I've been very thankful to some rock solid girlfriends who have offered me that kind of support. I tend to think men don't get women. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. So of course, with the exception of a few, like my husband. I think women have played a very significant role in giving me that fulfillment. And that's why I think when you reached out to me, I know I've connected like that. I'm like, this is a place I want to be. This is a space I want to speak at, because I think women can do wonders when we try to build each other up. And I think whether it's a mother or a sister or a friend or a sister-in-law or a mother-in-law, I think there are some amazing women out there, who have built each other up historically, and they continue to. I personally stay away from negative vibes. And I think there is a lot of negativity also, whether it's on social media or whether it's, in social circles, there's a lot of comparison, competition. But I think we need to raise above that and learn to build each other up, appreciate each other, and recognize each other. And again, a huge shout out to you for creating this platform, for doing just that.
Thank you so much for sharing, those views. I think, those are absolute musts for every woman to hear, think about, and incorporate, right? Like you said, we live in a world where, social media dominates, it rules, and it's so easy to fall prey to negativity. But in doing what you're doing, Deepika, you're also setting a great foundation for your daughters. I think it's they learn by watching you. More than they learn by listening to you. So I think that is just wonderful. Any parting words? You've touched upon some really important subjects. You've talked about healthcare. You've talked about the importance of, being positive, stay positive. Any words of advice for our younger women out there, anywhere in the world, who are listening to this, and, thinking about their own lives and, what they want to do in the future? I'd love to have those parting words from you.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to put some more thought into this question, I would say my professional and personal values are very aligned and very close to health and suffering. And I think first, my advice for anyone considering healthcare, it's not for the money, it's not for the glamour. I think if you cannot empathize, or if you cannot listen to another person, please don't consider this profession. I talk to a lot of youngsters and medical students who say, oh, I got into this profession because I could practice robotics or this surgery or that surgery. And I think what I really want to hear from people is, the good old values that our teachers and our doctors had, right? So please be empathetic, whether you're in a medical profession or not. I think that's something very central to me. I think in this the world of technology, we are somehow losing that human touch, maybe not human connection, but the empathy that we have for each other, the love. And yeah, my parting words would be, किसी का दर्द ले सके तो ले गुजार जीना इसी का नाम है. So it's not just about sticking together in happiness, but also in each other's sorrow. Just be authentic, and don't be carried away by the social world.
Everything you've said, Deepika, it really resonates, not just with me, with my audience. And the way I introduced you, I feel you have really stood out to me.
Thank you. That's an honor.
It's an honor. And it looks like you definitely practice, because it shows, it reflects. So truly grateful to have you on the show today. I am positive a lot of women have taken a lot of insights, ideas, and some really valuable perspectives that you've shared. It's an honor. I wish we could go on longer and talk about so many things. You've got an ocean of knowledge, wisdom. And
thank you, Anu. But before I let you go, can you define what Sarva Gunn Sampann means for our audience?
Absolutely. Sarva Gunn Sampann is about the unique identities and celebrating those, and letting everybody really start thinking about, we're not perfect. We cannot be perfect. We can aspire to be perfect. But when we're talking about that quintessential womanhood, the way we achieve that is by building each other up, by learning from each other, by listening to each other, and then start thinking about how do we collectively become Sarva Gunn Sampann. So that was the idea behind the show, Deepika.
Beautiful. How inspiring, Anu, and I wish you the very best in your journey with this podcast. Thank you for having me over.
Thank you so much, Deepika. It was great having you. And to my audience, to my viewers, if you like the content of this show and you want to come back next Monday, I'd highly encourage you to subscribe to this channel and share this with all the women in your life across your social media platforms, and definitely hit on that bell notice icon so you get notifications about the show that airs every Monday. Thank you so much, and we'll see you around next week. Thank you.